Hi, we're now going to move on to creating the section through the Casa Gaspar house, and here you can see the finished section. We've got the solid areas of wall that we're cutting through. We've got items that are in the background, we've got the walls, and we've got a bit of life added to the drawing as well. In the form of what we call entourage. We've got some people here, the front of a car poking out there, and trees as well. So it's good to understand, what it is you're actually drawing. So let's have a wee look at Photoshop first. Okay, so we're looking at a 3D model of the building, and we're basically going to cut the building in half along its kind of principal axis. So if I just switch on this layer here, you can see this is where we're going to take our section. So we're slicing it at this point. Okay, let's get in a bit closer and see what happens. Okay, so if we take away this front half of the building, we're left with this view, and what we need to do now is pick out the relevant bits of information and represent those with different colors that suit the pen weights. So we generally start with the solid materials. So we'll be cutting through the ground, and we're cutting through the walls, and we're cutting through the roof as well. So if I show you where those lines would be, okay, so we take in the shape of the pool as well. And we've got a little bit of a difference in height of the ground outside the building to inside, so you can see here just a small ramp. Okay, then we're also cutting through some door frames, so we would pick out that detail. So there's not much of that. We're not having to cut through many of these kind of second level information. Okay, but we do have a lot of background information. So these are the lines that are going to end up on the section drawing. Okay, so we're picking up objects that are further back. This could be split into more zones. You could have a very fine line for the stuff that's very far away. A thin line here, medium, thick. So it's up to you how you kind of really how much breakdown you do on that. But generally 3 line weights would be sufficient, but you could go to 4 for a very, very fine line. You'd have to tweak your pen settings file to achieve that. Okay, and there's also what we could also indicate is that there is a fairly important feature behind the main living space. Okay, so we've got a lower roof portion in here, so what we'll do is identify that with 3 broken lines. So these 2 are the roof thickness in this kind of vein, and then the third one is this line running behind out of sight. Okay, so that's generally how things are going to work. So we'll go back to Autocad now. Okay, the first thing we need to do is identify where the section line is being taken. So what we're going to do is create a layer called Annotate, and this is going to be used for a lot of things, for titles, room names, and things like north points, stuff like that, but also the section line as well. So we'll create a new layer and call it Annotate, and make that color white, that's fine, and make it current. Close this. Okay, before we start drawing, remember pick box 6, DYN mode 0. Just makes it easier to work. So we'll need ortho on, but we want to check our object snaps here. So endpoint, midpoint, intersection, and perpendicular should do the job. So just a regular line to start off with, and we're just going to draw it from about here through to the other side. Okay, it doesn't have to be exactly on the axis. I'm just going to put this little bit further down, starting about here, and drag through. Okay, so that's the cut line. Okay, you put the cut line where it's going to pick up the most interesting features. You don't put it through the easiest bit of the building necessarily. Okay, we need to indicate where we're stood and which direction we're looking. So we're going to be stood on this side, effectively looking in this direction. Okay, so to indicate that, you usually put a tag or a flag or a marker on the end of the line. So a good one to use is a polyline. You start the polyline, but give it some width. So type in W, enter, and we'll start with 400, but we'll taper to 0. So it's 400, enter, 0, enter. And then we just have to decide how high we want the arrow to be. Just make it look elegant. Enter to stop. And then we'll copy that. So you pick the object, enter, base point, destination point, enter to stop. Okay, ultimately we'll probably chop a chunk out of this because we don't need it to read as a solid line going right the way through. Somebody might misconstrue it, so we just have it kind of broken, but we'll leave it solid, we'll leave it continuous just now. Okay, the landscape hatching here and the fill could get a little bit distracting here, so I think we'll freeze those two layers. So groundscape, freeze, fill, freeze. Just makes it a bit easier to work. Okay, now we're going to be drawing the section down here. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll create some layers to work with for the section. Okay, so we'll need 3 new layers here. So section heavy, make that pink, so magenta. Okay, so it's going to use the same line weight as the walls in plan. Okay, next one, section background, we'll make that green, so it uses a thin pen. Okay, another one, section medium, so this is medium thickness line, so we'll make that yellow. So this is the same kind of level of importance as the solid doors and as the windows. Okay, and then the final one, section hidden. Okay, and we'll use cyan for that. And okay, so we'll start with section heavy, make that current. Okay, and just draw a line across here, and this is going to be the very top of the section, the highest part of the building. Okay, so a line with ortho on, just drag that across, enter to stop. Now, what height do we use? Okay, so the height information is on My Dundee. Okay, you can see it in this diagram here. Okay, so the line we've just drawn is this one, and we're going to offset that down the way to get what we call the datum. So that's level 0. Okay, we'll keep this available so we can come back to it to get the other heights. Okay, so it's offset 5100, enter, take this line down, and that's our floor, that's our base level. Okay, so what I'm just going to do this, write a little bit of text on there, datum 0.0 meters. Okay, So what we do now is start projecting lines down from the plan. So we can either project lines or we can copy lines. So let's just demonstrate both. So it's a wee bit awkward in our choice of section position because it doesn't actually cut through the walls, but what we would do is take these positions, endpoint here and endpoint here, and project those down to the section. So just use normal lines from endpoint perpendicular. Same again from endpoint perpendicular. Okay. Oops, didn't take that far enough. Let's just extend that, use the grips. Okay, let's copy instead so we can just show you what happens. So copy, take both of these, enter. Base point can be anywhere, but generally if you're going downwards you want to be near the top of the screen. So base point, ortho's on, and we just drag it down. Okay, so bear in mind those two lines are on the wrong layer. Okay, they're part of a plan. So let's match them just now. Match properties from this to these two. Doesn't look like anything's changed, but the layer has. Okay, so these two sets of lines are from the kind of the courtyard walls. The courtyard walls aren't as high as the bit of the building in the middle. Okay, so the courtyard walls are this height, 3600. So let's set that up first. Another height that we need to bear in mind is the height of the doorway, the head of the doorway. So that's 2100. Okay, so remember those two numbers, 3600, 2100. Okay, so now we're doing offsets. It's going to be from this line up the way. So offset 2100, that gives us the door head. Offset 3600, this is the height of the courtyard walls. Okay, let's do some trimming just now. So we'd lose these two lines in the doorway, we'd lose this. Okay, so that's our doorway. Then we want to get rid of all of these. Okay, so we've got the wall here, full height, and this one's broken by the doorway. Okay, down below here, take away and leave it simple like that. Okay, so the outside floor level is a bit lower. So if we click on this, click on the grip, take this down, and we've got ortho on, we drag it down once and type in 125, enter. Enter to stop. Okay, and what we'll do is just add a little bit more line here. So that's the ground level outside our compound. Okay, let's deal with the situation at this side. Okay, we really want to chop this line off and then set up a ramp. So let's just add a line temporarily so we know where to go to. Okay, we can trim that off. Okay, that's done its job just now, so we'll take that away. Now the ramp was on the landscape layer, so let's just pop that back on temporarily, so on the groundscape, and draw a line down from the corner of the ramp. Okay, let's just drag that downwards. Okay, the groundscape can go off now. You can use these to quickly freeze a layer. This is useful. Freeze and just click an object on the layer you want to get rid of. Okay, we're getting here now, so we can draw the ramp. Let's just show you that in a bit more detail. You see here we've got this point. We now need the ramp and a little bit more line. Okay, so if we draw a line from there, perpendicular, we can use the grips. So you click on the grip, drag downwards, and type 125. Enter. Oh, that did 1253. That's a bit big. Try that again. 125. Enter. That's better. Escape. This line's done its job. We don't need to keep that. We just need to add a little bit more line here for the ground outside the building. So we come along, we have a small ramp up to the doorway, and we're in to the courtyard. Okay, these 4 lines have done their job. They can go. And what we can do now is look at the central part of the building. Okay. So it's these 4 lines that we need to project downwards. So let's use projections so that things stay on the same layer. So line from endpoint, perpendicular. I'm looking for a midpoint or an endpoint here. That will do. A midpoint. We'll take a midpoint there and a nice easy to get endpoint there. Okay, nothing goes above this line, so we could chop those off just now. So you could use a fence through there. Now, it's also left these bits, so we need to delete those. Okay, and now we need the heights of the parapet roof. So there's a small upstand on the roof, 450 millimeters, and then the roof is 450 millimeters thick. Okay, so here's the kind of parapet, and there's the roof thickness. Okay, so it's offset. Now we could work from the floor upwards, or we could work from this downwards. Okay, so working from the floor upwards, it's 4650. Take this line up, enter twice, then 4200. Take this line up. Okay, while we're dealing with this, let's chop out the doorways. So again, it's 2100. Okay. I'm going to bring this in with the grips just now. Okay, and then I'm going to trim. So trim here. Whoops. Keep losing things here. Trim. Trim away. And then a big tidy up here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Then the last job for this main solid part of the section is to get the pool. Okay, and again that is on the groundscape layer, so we'll just bring it back temporarily. Okay, and our section's going through the pool at these 2 points, so we pull a line down from intersection, and we'll take it just a bit further down below the floor. Do the same on this side. Okay, the pool has a bit more detail to it. Let's just have a look at that on My Dundee. So you can see here we've got a blow up of the pool area. Okay, so the bottom of the pool is 600 below the courtyard floor. Okay, but then we've got 50 thick to indicate the paving, and then another 100 takes us to the water level. So we're getting a bit closer. So first major offset was 600. So take this line down, escape. Let's trim this up just now. So trim. When lines are completely off screen, you don't end up with the kind of trimming between here and the plan. It's just going to chop that line off completely. So it actually works quite well. So let's just get rid of these. Okay, let's just make sure. So you see there's nothing left here. Normally if we could see this, it would use it for the trimming, but because it wasn't visible on screen, it didn't use it. So try and remember that. Okay, so that's the main shapes. We now start looking at the background items. So since we've just done the pool, let's just finish that bit first. So we need 3 green lines, okay, one across top, then 50, then 100. Okay, so we'll change now to section background. Getting a bit closer. We need a line across the top here, because the floor carries on around the back. You know, you can walk around the other side of the pool. Just then offset 50, offset 100. That's all we need to draw for that. Okay. The courtyard wall wraps around the back of the building. So let's draw a line from here, perpendicular. To midpoint is the same position, so that's okay. I'm going to go from this side. You see it's perpendicular. Okay, the parapet wall goes around at the back. You can see it here. That's the line we're drawing next. So we've just drawn this one. We're going to draw this one next. Okay, so a line from endpoint to endpoint. Okay, let's put in a bit of detail here to show that the wall is going beyond here. So we just draw some lines in, just to get the section feeling more complete just now and understandable. Okay, so what we've just drawn are these lines. So next thing I think we should draw is the kind of garden screens, and then we'll do the door at the back of the living space. Okay, so the garden screen would project down from here. Okay, perpendicular, and the height of the screen is the same as the doors. So we'll take from here across. Okay, and we need to do a bit of trimming there. So if I keep that off screen, I only need to do 2 trims. Okay, do the same at this side. Project down, and then a line from here across, and then trim or fillet. You know, don't forget about fillet. It's very useful. Generally would be quicker than trimming, to be honest. Okay, then we've got a doorway here. So it's not, there isn't a door in this, it's just an opening, but it's fairly, fairly important. So I'll take a line down, perpendicular, another line down, perpendicular, and then a line across from there. So I'm going to use fillet again, enter, pick, pick. Okay, it's really shaping up now. We want to indicate that we're cutting through the doorways, so a little bit of detail needed here, which will go onto the section medium layer. Okay, so if you remember on Photoshop, it's these little yellow items here. They're the bits of door frame that are getting chopped through. So they're a bit more important than the background, just a wee bit more. So I'm going to zoom in closer here and stretch this down the way by 50. Okay, so made a little gap there, and then remember we drew the door frames using a polyline. So go from here to here, across 100, back up perpendicular, or back up 50. Okay, copy this line from endpoint to endpoint. Copy from endpoint to endpoint. Okay, so that's the wooden door frame going down the wall, down to the floor. Now you could draw that again here and here, but it's a bit quicker if you delete these two lines and copy these three items. So copy 1, 2, 3, enter. Now the first copy is from this endpoint to this endpoint. The second one uses a different endpoint. So it's 1, 2, 3, enter, from this endpoint instead to this endpoint. Okay, so you notice the difference there? You're just kind of thinking one step ahead of the move. Okay, last job is to put in the hidden information. So on Photoshop, we're trying to identify these three lines. Okay, heights wise, we could do this in a number of ways. Oops, I'm scrolling here, sorry about that. Okay, so we could do these as offsets. Okay, I think that's what we should do. So offset 2700, 3150, and 3600 again. Okay, so it's offset 2700. So that's effectively the ceiling height in the space beyond. Offset 3150. And offset 3600. Okay, now we've got these lines could do with just being stretched back using grips. It's going to be a bit easier than trimming because they're kind of lying on top of other objects. So I'm just bringing them back using grips. Okay, if you wanted to, this one could extend back out. Okay, and then those three go onto layer section hidden. Okay, now they aren't showing us a different line type, so we need to check that. Let's just make sure if we did change the line type. I don't think we did by the look of it. So section hidden, change the line type to hidden x2. Okay, that's looking fine. So that is basically the section finished, but we could fill the section as we have with the plan. So let's see if we've got a polyline layer. We don't, so let's just create a temporary kind of polyline layer. Let's make it green so we can really see it. Okay, now the heavy shapes up here are going to hatch okay. They'll fill because they're nice, you know, it's a clean rectangle there, it's a watertight shape here, but down at the bottom here it would be trickier to get that to work. So what we could do is just draw a temporary line down here. Oops, I need to be on the polyline layer. Okay, so just draw a line down from there, quite far down, because you're never too sure how much of this base you're going to show when you do a plot. Okay, and then do a polyline from here down, perpendicular, and then back up. Okay, I'm not going to trace the whole shape. I'm going to try and hatch it using this and then these lines. Okay, but what we could do is turn off the background layer, so off, so we can turn off the hidden, turn off the background, turn off the medium. Okay, we don't need that bit of text anymore. Okay, so you can now see that we've got closed shapes that should hatch. Okay, so if we thaw the fill layer, we could create a section fill layer. If you wanted them to be a different color from plan to section, then you'd probably best to have 2 layers, but we'll just use this one. It's hatch using solid. Okay, if we grabbed everything at the same time, then we've got a hatch that's a bit uneditable, so you're better to do it in parts. So select, do this one first. Now that isn't showing us solid, so that's better. Solid, tick, hatch again, solid, select this kind of goalpost shape and tick, and then hatch again, select. Need to be a bit more careful this time. Grab these and this. It's only when I pick that did it say right I can hatch you properly. Hit the tick. Okay, it looks like the hatch pattern has gone behind the lines, but if you're a bit unsure, use the draw order command, which shortens to DR, enter, and you pick your hatch patterns and enter twice. That makes sure they've gone to the back. We don't really need to keep this polyline, so let's delete that, and we can bring back on our section information now. Okay, add a bit of life to this. We've got a file that we can download on My Dundee. Okay, Gaspar section entourage. Now these symbols are coming from this blocks library, so if you want to use this yourself, feel free to download this DWG and you can use that. Okay, this little image is showing you where the insertion point is going to be, because it's not going to be 0, 0 anymore. Okay, because we'll have all drawn our section in slightly different positions, so we do need to pick a point on the section itself. So it's where the door frame hits the floor. Okay, so download the file first. There it goes. Okay, and then in Autocad we want to insert block from libraries. Okay, right click. Oh, sorry, no, I have to browse for it first. We need to browse. That's the furniture. So browse to my downloads. There's the section entourage. Okay, click open. We need to control where it goes, so the tick needs to be an insertion point. Okay, right click the principal file, the Casa Gaspar entourage, insert and explode. Okay, but we've got control of this. Okay, I need to get that out of the way so I can see where I can put it, and it goes at the bottom of this line. Close that. Okay, now it looks okay, but if I zoom in closer, you can see that the pink line is getting interrupted by the red lines of the shoes here. So what we need to do is just push these items to the back. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and this little collection all need moved to the back. So you see the way the blue is interrupting the green there? So we'll just do this one on its own, so because it's a wee bit trickier to pick. So the command is draw order, DR, enter, grab all those lines, enter twice. Okay, that looks like it could do a little bit of trimming as well, to be honest, so let's just do that while we can see it. So just a couple of bits that didn't get trimmed properly. That looks better. Okay, and then these four can be done together. DR, enter, pick 1, 2, 3, 4, enter, enter again. So they're now at the back. If you wanted to, you could trim away these lines where the trees overlap the background. That would look a bit more kind of correct. Okay, so I'm looking, these are the kind of bunches of leaves in this kind of tree graphic. So I can take those away. Okay, do the same over here. It's exactly the same trims. Just gives it a little bit better depth impression. Okay, excellent. So that is the section complete. Next we'll move on to the elevation.